Hello and welcome once again to Breakfast All Day. The three of us are here. It's a glorious day.
Yeah.
It really is. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm Christy, and that's Alonso, and that's Matt. Say hello, fellas.
Hello, fellas.
I'm under-caffeinated, but Matt's over-caffeinated, so it'll balance out nicely.
Or am I?
I could have gotten you some coffee. I offered you coffee or tea or water
I know.
anything.
I'm trying to drink less, and I think I cut back too much on day one.
We have all the beverages are here at Breakfast All Day. I could have made you fresh squeezed orange juice.
I need to taper better.
We really should be having mimosas for breakfast all day.
We should. We have an orange tree. It is California. We have an orange tree in our backyard.
Right. Also, I'm going to call out to everybody watching this on YouTube that my apologies because I've been the one slow to put up all the videos. So blame me.
So if you've been on tenterhooks for those last two True Detective recaps on video.
We'll get them up soon, and then we're also going to have a new thing that I'm excited to introduce called Breakfast All Day a la carte. These are interviews with people who work in film or pop culture or entertainment, or they're just friends of ours who are interesting.
You should call it In the Breakfast Nook.
In the breakfast, no, but I like it. It's a la carte. It's like a side order. Like all you want is a side of hash browns.
Okay.
All you want is like one scrambled egg, right? You're ordering it off the menu, a la carte. It's different. So Matt and I had a wonderful discussion with the artist Shag, which was so much fun, and he was a sweetheart. So we had a good time talking with him. That will be up over the weekend. So look for more of those in the future, more interviews and chats with people we think are interesting that we hope you will also think are interesting. But we're going to start out with Captain Marvel.
Yes.
The long-awaited, finally, a Marvel movie with a female superhero at its center, with a woman directing it, co-directing it. Brie Larson plays Captain Marvel. Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck co-directed and co-wrote this with a bunch of other writers. And it's the origin story of Carol Danvers. Right?
And of Nick Fury, in a way.
Right.
Or at least...
And of Coulson. And Coulson.
And Coulson.
Right?
Sort of.
So I don't want to spoil things, but you guys know this takes place in the 90s, right? I mean, that's a given. They lean very hard on the 90s nostalgia. Yeah. I mean,
she literally lands in a blockbuster.
She literally crash lands into a blockbuster, and they spent a ton of money on music here. Like, name a 90s girl power anthem, and it is in it, from TLC to some particularly on-the-nose use of Just a Girl by No Doubt.
No Spice Girls, though, now that you mentioned
No Spice Girls, yes. But others.
But like, all the sort of, like, female-fronted kind of grungy bands, for sure.
Right. Elastica.
Garbage.
Hole.
They're making a
yes.
yeah.
So Carol Danvers... We first see her, she does not know who she is. She is in the midst of some war zone. She, we find out, is a warrior living and training on the Kree planet of Hala.
Hala!
I swear to God, we didn't plan that. We're just all on the same page.
Or maybe it's, actually, I think it's pronounced Hala.
Hala, right.
It's very
French toast.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. So... Oh, we're punchy. So Carol Danvers is being trained by Jude Law. She is consistently being told to keep her emotions in check because girls, we're emotional. We get our period and everything goes haywire.
Your dumb feelings.
You and your menstrual cycles. So it's very on the nose with its messaging in a lot of ways as far as trying to upend sexist notions of what women can and should do, and she crash lands on Earth. There's a MacGuffin-y, sparkly cube thing that she's after.
Cube, you say?
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing that's sparkly. Anyway, there's a war going on between the Kree and the Skrulls. The Skrulls are led by Ben Mendelsohn. Anyway, she has to go to Earth, and in the process of going to Earth, she figures out who she actually was, and she was a test pilot. She was a rare female test pilot. Annette Bening was her mentor there, and it's how she finds out who she is while also trying to save her people or something.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. I really wanted to love this movie. I'm a big fan of Brie Larson. She is great in everything. Short Term 12, Room, name it. She's got a really fascinating and very accessible and very authentic screen presence to her. And there's so little to her character here. I mean, her chief characteristic is that she is she's a rebel. She's plucky and she's a rebel. And we see some flashbacks to her youth when she's knocked down and she gets up again. You're never going to keep her down.
That's right. But they don't use that song.
They don't use
shockingly
Chumbawamba,
enough.
sadly. And I feel like her journey would have been richer if her character had been better developed.
Well, I mean, I think to be fair, she does spend much of the movie not knowing who she is, so it's hard to get to know her because she doesn't know her. But I do think that the fact that she's having to sort of reconstruct her past and figure stuff out makes for a more interesting origin story.
Because we're along for the ride.
Because we're along for the
that.
ride, yeah. Because we don't. Because it's not being delivered to us in the sort of ABC order. We get these flashes and snippets that she's trying to figure out and we're trying to figure out, and eventually it kind of comes together. So I think that building her as a character is something that will come later. Like I tend to like the second Marvel movie of a certain character more than the first one. I mean, there are exceptions, but like. I think the Thor movies get better. I think the Captain America movies get better after the first one.
The Iron Man movies don't get better.
That's the exception.
That started out really strong.
Yes,
the first Iron Man's great.
It was, but then it goes downhill from there.
But I think Ant-Man and the Wasp is better than Ant-Man. So I think that we have to sort of put all the pieces on the board, and then now that we've done that, future Captain Marvel installments I think will allow her to be richer and more interesting.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, she has wonderful chemistry with Nick Fury. We see young Nick Fury. We see a de-aged Samuel L. Jackson, and it's seamless. We also see young Coulson. Clark Gregg comes back and plays Coulson.
With more hair than Clark Gregg has ever had.
I was going to say that the effects aren't quite so seamless with Clark Gregg, but a lot of the fun of the film comes from her banter with Nick Fury as they feel each other out and get to know each other. She's good with a quip, Brie Larson. But go ahead, Matt. You're going to say something.
Yeah, I like this movie a lot, more than I think you guys did. I went in this kind of expecting to like it and hoping to like it. So
I was too, Matt.
And I was pretty satisfied with it. It's not at all what I expected, and it's almost like almost configured a little bit like a mystery. Like you kind of don't know what's going on. It kind of just dumps you into things, and there's you obviously get the sense that there's more going on than you really realize, and that's okay. That worked really well. I had a really great time. The chemistry, you're right, between Larson and Jackson. I would watch the hell out of a buddy cop movie with them because I thought that they were terrific, and you see a glimpse of that when they did their Oscar presentation. Like they've got really good timing playing off of each other. But I had a really fun time in this. I thought Ben Mendelsohn was this really fun villain that is like weirdly casual in places that you kind of don't expect, and I thought that was really funny. Like he gets he's irritated with the kind of the like dumb thugs working for him.
I kind of feel like now when Ben Mendelsohn shows up in a movie, I was like just because I kind of know what I'm gonna get, just not because of him, but just because of the kind of stuff that he gets cast in. And this feels like a much more interesting sort of bad guy role for him to play.
Yeah, he toys with those expectations a bit here. But again, like all of those supporting characters are better developed and are more compelling than the woman at the center. Like she's the straight person at the center and the anchor in the sea of all of these big personalities. Right. Well, I wanted more for her.
Black Panther was the same way for me. Whereas I liked him as a character and I was interested, but I was way more interested in all the supporting characters and the women and in Killmonger and so I think that's sometimes it's like if you look back at the Batman movies, usually the villain is far more interesting. So I think it's the first movie syndrome, and then they can sort of make her more interesting as we move along. I had a good time with this. I was consistently entertained. I thought there were some fun surprises. This movie plays around with Marvel canon in a way that I thought was pretty daring.
Right.
There are some things that if you have watched all these movies, there are some cool stuff. But also, if you have never seen these movies, I feel like you can get into this and not feel completely lost.
Yeah, because since it's set in the 90s, it is almost sort of a prequel to the entire MCU. So you could...
You're forgetting, of course, Captain America.
You're right.
Right.
Okay.
So this is the second prequel.
It's the second prequel.
Okay. Right. But speaking of the 90s stuff, I want to ask you guys, do you feel like the effects in the big action sequences are intentionally a little cheesy to keep with the 90s vibe? Because they lean really hard on the 90s nostalgia from, people tying flannels around their waist and all the music and the blockbuster video and like, two-way pagers. And we were so lame. Dial up,
In the early internet.
We were so lame.
That was a funny bit.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, but it's borderline Ready Player One in terms of like, ooh, there's a thing, there's a thing, there's a thing. Ooh,
right,
look, the 90s were so lame. Look at us now.
It was. I mean, they lean a little hard on it, but
They do.
it didn't tip into Ready Player One.
But do you feel did the effects look a little cheesy, like jarringly cheesy to you for an MCU movie? And do you think that was an intentional aesthetic choice to be consistent with the fact that it's a movie set in the 90s and perhaps is made to make you feel like it was also made in the 90s?
I didn't find them jarring.
No.
I didn't notice them being bad or cheesy or anything.
Did you see it in 2D or 3D?
2.
Me too.
Yeah, I saw it in 2D, and that didn't bother me either.
Like there's a scene, that first scene where they're fighting, the Kree are fighting the Skrulls, and it's like on a dust planet at night. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see anything. That's
not just a 90s thing.
but a lot of it's like pew pew pew. Like there's a lot. It felt out of place given the technology that is pervasive and shiny and impressive in other MCU movies. Anyway, I mean, again, I don't necessarily enjoy these movies because of those scenes. That's not what I'm necessarily there for, but it felt different to me. So I was wondering if maybe that was a thing that you thought too.
I don't know. I mean, like, obviously Fleck and Boden are new to the MCU, and they're new to this kind of movie. Like, their previous stuff is like Half Nelson and Sugar, these very sort of indie character-based dramas. But as we know, the MCU can sort of plug filmmakers into this whole franchise, and there's enough of a support staff of
cast of thousands.
The people that know how to do this stuff that do that stuff.
But because they have such a rich tradition of character-driven indie dramas, I mean, Half Nelson's the movie that put Ryan Gosling on the map. I mean, Sugar's one of the best baseball movies ever made. Yeah. I expected a deeper level of character development than we get here. And maybe it's just because it is such a massive behemoth machinery that they weren't as able to imbue their signature writing style into this.
I disagree with you, though, because I think you get a lot of,
when they get to Louisiana, I felt like we got a lot of that.
Right. I think, Danvers is really looking to figure out where she came from and her past. And the more she learns about that, the more you see her. It's not that she was lacking for confidence, but you see her make different decisions in her life. And it's, but she's very much like, I got the sense that her character all along was like, she knows who she is to the best of her ability that her memories let her know. Right. She's always confident. She's always like, hey, look, I'm doing a job. This is what I'm going to do.
She's plucky.
But then she realizes, as she gets more of her memories, like, oh, those emotions, those feelings, those are a strength.
Yeah. The whole movie's a metaphor about a woman taking control of her own power.
Right. And then, she makes, and I'm not going to spoil it, but you see a decision that she makes by the end of it that's meaningful, that has to do with, that comes from the emotions that we've realized that she's now in touch with.
Yeah. Everything you're telling me is a bug, is a feature.
Yeah. And the other thing
that's what the character's saying.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I see. Within her, she comes to realize that about herself.
Right. And I think part of that is her relationship with Fury. Although he, arguably, like, he gets probably a little bit more satisfying development because he kind of starts out as this kind of like wearied, like, I'm just doing this job and I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, he's kind of just going through the motions, and then things happen, and like you see a new inspiration for him.
Right. Like S.H.I.E.L.D. exists, but
right.
They're dealing with different
But he's
stuff.
Punching a clock.
Yeah.
Right. Like S.H.I.E.L.D. exists, but he's basically punching a clock.
We have to talk about Goose the cat.
Oh my God. We can tell you that it's great. Goose is great.
Goose is
good
great. And I'm not a cat person at all.
Yes.
But one of the great, instantly joins the ranks of the great screen cats. Not since Alien.
And I would say great MCU other human characters, like up there with Rocket and Groot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, the less you know about Goose, the better. But Goose is awesome. Goose is important.
Actually, and our friend Tom, who reads this stuff, was Goose who in the comics is named Chewie after Chewbacca.
Okay.
But has had interactions with Rocket.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds like
Yep.
fun. See, I look forward to that because, again, this is not a spoiler. This character is going to be in the next Avengers movie. We know this. This is a thing that's known.
Yeah.
I'm not ruining this for you guys.
As you know by now, the end of Infinity War was a tease to this. So obviously it's going to come full circle.
Right.
Yes.
And stay for both. There's a couple of credit scenes, so obviously stay for both.
Oh yeah, and they're both good in different ways.
Yes.
They both matter in different ways. Yeah. No, I had fun. I did. I wanted more. But as you say, Alonso, they often these first ones with a new character is a lot of like table setting.
Yeah.
I hear you on that. I do. So what are your numbers? I'm saying 6.
I said 7.4. I had a really good time. It's not, it's kind of in the. I have this ranking list of the MCU movies of the Wrap, and that I have to update every time I see a new one, and it's firmly in the middle. It didn't blow me away, but I had a great time, and I definitely look forward to the second and third installments.
I do too. Okay, Matt.
I had a great time. I really like this. I like all these movies. This one is in the top half for me, maybe the top third. I give it an 8.3.
Okay.
Right.
Our number is an 7.2 is our number, and it is at 82% on the tomato meter.
So, hey, thanks for watching. Here on YouTube, you can click like on this video and you can subscribe to our channel. And if you want to get this show as a podcast, we're available at Stitcher and Spotify and Google Play and all the usual podcatchers. Leave us positive feedback there as well. Follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.